Hey up everybody, my name's Joshua Morrison, director of Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence, and today I want to talk to you about one of my favourite ever movies, and that film is called Before Sunrise, directed by Richard Linklater, starring Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy. It's released in 1995, and when I first watched it, it made a really tremendous impact on me, and I think it's probably the single film that most developed my taste in regard to film, and most developed my my style and my vision and how I want to make films going forward. I think I saw it and it just changed everything for me, and I feel like it was the first film that really made me feel like myself a little bit. And the reason I'm making this video is because I kind of don't want to watch it again. I've been thinking about this because I've not seen it in about 4 years. I've watched it about 10 times, which for me is a lot. Like, that is a hell of a lot. I'm not really someone to rewatch movies. I know some people might be able to say like, oh, I've watched this film 50 times or whatever. 10 times for me, and every single time was just, it made me cry. It made me cry every single time without fail. If you haven't seen the film, it's a film where it starts off on a train in Vienna, and it first shows like this German couple arguing, and you see Julie Delpy and you see Ethan Hawke, and they make a bit of eye contact, like, bloody hell, Jesus, man, you see that? And they get talking first about that, and then they go off in their own little direction, and then they kind of talk a little bit more, and they get a drink together on the train, and they have a really nice time together, and it gets time for Julie Delpy to get to her station, and Ethan Hawke kind of goes, well, listen, I've really enjoyed spending time with you, and he gets quite excitable, and I thought that was quite cute. And he sort of says, listen, I know this is an insane idea and you're probably going to say no, but look, I've got like an extra day pass, and I imagine you've kind of got the same, where we could just get off here, just enjoy Vienna for the night, and then get the 7 o'clock train in the morning, and then just carry on our separate ways, and we could just sort of do things that way. And she kind of goes, yeah, I mean, it would be kind of nice. He kind of talks her into it. And at first it's a little bit awkward as they go around Vienna, because they're a little bit like, God, isn't it weird that we're doing this? A lot of the conversation revolves around that at first, as they're still getting to know each other. You know, when you get to know someone, you're on that quite basic level with them, where you can't quite talk about your deepest, darkest insecurities or thoughts on the world and that kind of thing, because you don't know how they're going to take that sort of thing. You certainly can't get into anything political or anything like that, because you don't know who that person is. Are you going to say something that completely terrifies them and scares them off you? Because now you're stuck together. If, like, you know, if Ethan Hawke or Julie Delpy say something that goes wrong, that turns everything sour, they're stuck together for the next like 12 hours. So what are you going to do? They walk across a bridge, and this German play, these two guys that are in this play come up to them and offer them tickets for the play. And they say, yeah, we'll probably go to that. And something I really like about the film is they big this scene up, and they really make you think that they're going to go to this play later, and then they don't. Which is an exact sort of thing that happens in these sort of circumstances, because I've lived Before Sunrise in terms of how I felt about it on that day, when I was walking around and just sort of feel like, and you look at the person, you're just like, this is like the most magical moment of my life ever, bar none, and it feels like it's a movie, and I could name the specific movie, and it is Before Sunrise. And obviously there's differences in, you know, the circumstances and all that kind of stuff, but it made me think that this is a really universal film. And I think in terms of romantic films, it's possibly the most romantic film and the most true to life film in terms of its romance. Obviously the situation is a bit wacky, but the way that people meet tends to be a little bit wacky. And it tends to be a day where it just feels a little bit almost strange. I'm trying to remember the exact word, but it just seems really strange that this sort of thing could happen in your life, which normally seems so boring. And I've thought that for quite a while, and I stopped watching Before Sunrise because I don't know, it just sort of, my attitude towards life sort of started to feel a little bit less happy-go-lucky and sort of, you know, youthful energy and all that kind of stuff. I started to feel a little bit less like Before Sunrise and a bit more like Before Midnight. A bit of context if you don't know, Before Sunrise is the first part of a trilogy. That's Before Sunrise, which was made in 1995, and then Before Sunset, which was made in 2004, and then Before Midnight, which was made in 2013. And each of these films chronicles a chapter in these two people's lives as their lives reconvene over like decades, essentially. And it shows them grow from like very young, happy-go-lucky sort of people to older, middle-aged sort of people that have, you know, kids and, you know, worries and family issues that need to be sorted out and all that kind of personal stuff that needs to be resolved. So Before Midnight is a much less happy-go-lucky sort of film than Before Sunrise is. And I started to feel a lot more in that kind of lane. And then I kind of went the other way and I started to feel happy-go-lucky again. And it made me really inspired to actually watch Before Sunrise again. And I thought, oh, I can finally watch Before Sunrise again, because I hadn't wanted to watch it for a long time, because it felt like I would not be able to relate to it in the same way that I had so many times before. So I didn't watch it for quite a long time. And I still haven't seen it in about 4 years, because I started to worry that what if I find these characters really, really unlikable? Because Ethan Hawke can be a little bit of a snidey, sort of smirmy kind of ladies' man, it feels like sometimes in that film, from my recollection and the way that he talks and the way that he actually brings up the idea. And I started to worry that if I actually go back and watch it, that it will ruin the magic that that film has put into me. Because I feel like I have something holistic from the experience of watching Before Sunrise that I don't think I'll ever be able to recapture. I truly think that that moment has been rooted in time and it's sorted. And I'm so thankful that that film does exist, even if I don't want to watch it again. And it will remain my favorite film until the day I die, most likely. I mean, I would love if a film could manage to overtake it, but it's got a hell of a high bar to actually overcome if it wants to be better than Before Sunrise. Now I can watch Before Sunset still. Before Sunset isn't really a problem for me, but Before Sunrise just feels a little bit like, I don't know, I'm just really worried that I'm going to go back to it and I'm going to find the characters unlikable, and I'm going to find the whole situation a bit kitsch, and I'm going to find the whole thing just a little bit like soppy and bland and kind of not nearly as magical as I maybe thought it was when I originally saw it. And maybe my mind was a bit more open, and because I was still developing and I was still young and I was still growing and all that sort of stuff, and obviously I still am, but I'm more developed and I'm more grown now than I was then, so my mind could take that kind of thing, whereas maybe now it can't. That's maybe my idea, I'm not entirely sure. But I just wanted to make this video just to say that Before Sunrise is easily my favorite film. I really love it. It's got something to me, it's got something about it that feels so true to life and so true to the human experience that you cannot possibly do anything better with. And Richard Linklater is a master at the dialogue thing. Like, I mean, Quentin Tarantino gets the praise for his masterful dialogue, and he's really good at dialogue. I don't want to turn it into a comparison, but I really want to talk about Richard Linklater's dialogue and something that he does, which really surprises me. His films aren't particularly improvised. I bought the script for Before Sunrise and Before Sunset, and I read through them, and this is how well I knew the film at the time. I could tell that there was only 2 lines of dialogue that were different from the script compared to the movie. And it's not like I was reading the book and then having the film on in the background and analysing the differences. I just knew that wording sounded a little bit different and that word in there sounded a little bit different. There's one bit in there, there's a graveyard scene in Before Sunrise where they go around a graveyard and Julie Delpy kind of talks. I think she waxes philosophical about the idea of death, and like, I think she points at a couple graves and goes, oh, there's some important people that died here. And in the script, it's the same stuff that she's saying, it's just worded ever so slightly differently. But most of the time, the script is actually portrayed verbatim in the film, which really, really surprised me. And going forward into Before Sunset and Before Midnight, Julie Delpy and Ethan Hawke got writer's credits. And in Before Sunrise, I believe that they actually had a big hand in actually shaping bits of the script and tweaking the dialogue to fit the way that their natural inflections and that kind of thing. Because if you look at them actually talk as actors and not as characters, they're not actually doing anything vastly different. They're not putting on weird accents, they're not like being someone that's like larger than life or completely different from what they are like in real life. You see videos of them together and they are basically the same, which I think is what makes film so beautiful, is that you can capture a reality that you can't do in any other medium. Like with a book or a novel, for instance, you can sit there and listen to a piece of like conversation happen on the bus, and you can write it down. And it can be really interesting, and it's a really good way of actually seeing what is being said. But I think, and obviously you can't just record random people in public having conversations, but you can kind of write it down in a book. But if you can get two people that have really good chemistry together in a film and put them down and just get them talking, you will create magic. I wanted to create a film that was essentially my own little rip-off of Before Sunrise. It was going to be called The Nukes We Bought. And it was about, so I wrote a script, and it was basically this very young couple that were all in love and all that sort of stuff. They were playing Fallout 3 on their TV. And it was quite late at night. They were drinking and smoking and stuff like that. And so they were a little bit high and a little bit drunk and that kind of thing. And it was quite late. And they just had this mad idea to just go out and kind of role play and walk around town as if they were living in an apocalypse. And so they kind of just like did little in-jokes to each other, and like they went to a tower block because like they could see it from really far away, and they ventured their way over there, and they snuck in, they got to the very top of it, and they looked out over the city, and they kind of talked about the idea of if the apocalypse kind of came. And I remember the film's ending was, they were walking back home, and it was dawn at this point, and they walked past some garages, and there was a garage band inside that were just playing a jam, and some kind of old 50s kind of music, reflecting the way that the old-timey 50s Americana music is used in the Fallout franchise. And they just sit outside and they just have a bit of a dance together, and that was the end of the film. And that was a short, and then I made another script which was expanded that into a larger film, like a feature-length thing. But I didn't like it as much because I set out to make a film that had no conflict. I didn't want a film with conflict. And the conflict in Before Sunrise is that they clearly love each other, but they can't see each other again after the train thing. And they do kind of talk about, we could try and work out a way that we can meet here again at a certain time and do this and do that. But they kind of say, well, look, people do that, but they never actually go and actually meet the person again. Even if we try to make this magic happen again, it just might not come. And then at the very end of the film, spoilers, they kind of go, no, fuck it, we need to like figure out a way to, and they really quite desperately kind of come up with this idea, like 6 months from this day now exactly, and then they come up with like, okay, November 14th, come to this exact spot, I'll be here at 3 p.m. And they both live in separate countries from Vienna. She lives in France, he lives in America. And so they come up with this mad idea to actually go there and do this and just meet up at that spot in 6 months from now, because they clearly love each other so much that they just want to see each other again. And the fact that they can't really is what made me cry so many times at that film, and is what's so emotive about that film. The scene where they go into a bar and Ethan Hawke sweet talks the barman into giving them a bottle of wine for free is just so cool. Like, because obviously that kind of thing, like, you might watch in a cynical mindset and say that would never happen, but you ever been in the honeymoon phase with someone and just stuff happens that just doesn't normally happen in real life, but it is real life, so it obviously does happen, and you try and work that out, and it's sort of like the universe smiles upon you and just says, look man, you've had a hard time of it, here's someone that you get on really well with, and you're making them happy at the same time. Oh yeah, let's just chuck some, like, you know, hundreds and thousands, some sprinkles and like the cherry on top. Like recently I lost my tobacco pouch, which has some sentimental value to me, right? I'm not going to get into why it has sentimental value to me, but I lost it and I was a little bit sad by that. And then the very next day I found a filled packet of tobacco on the side of the road, and I just thought, oh, cool, brilliant, I suppose. So that sort of thing doesn't normally happen. And so it's like life is just saying, look man, things will work itself out. Here's some good stuff for you, because you're pretty great. And I want to keep that magic for reality. And the idea of seeing it again in the film Before Sunrise, just, I worry that if I see it again, I'll lose that bit of magic somehow. And I'm not really sure why. Maybe it's a stupid fear, and maybe this all seems a little bit ridiculous. Man can't watch his favorite film, but I don't know. There's something special about that film that I don't want to lose and that I don't want to update, and I want to keep it as a moment in time. And I don't think I'll watch it again for quite a while yet. I was ready to, and I typed it into the Netflix thing, and I looked, and it wasn't on Netflix, so I started sort of going on Amazon and trying to find the DVD, and I kind of thought, no, hang on, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. So I tabbed out and I did something else instead. And it made me quite happy to sort of think, well, I had such a beautiful thing with that film. I had a similar thing, by the way, with the film The World's End, Simon Pegg and Nick Frost thing for the last film in the Cornetto trilogy. That film I don't have a problem watching again for some reason. I don't have the same problem with that, maybe because it's a little bit less sentimental and a bit more comedy, but it's also a very sentimental film, and it's a film about, you know, the idea of growing old and sort of not being a kid anymore and that kind of thing, which, you know, being in your 20s kind of helps quite a lot. It's a very important message when you're actually growing up. And like when I first watched it, I was 16, and I really resonated with whatever Simon Pegg's character's called. I really, really resonated with him, and I thought he was someone to look up to because I was 16, I was his age when at the time he looks back on. And as I watched it again and again, I've watched that film about 10 times as well. And my most recent watching of it was a few months ago, and I saw it and I kind of thought, God, Gary King is an arsehole. He's a dickhead. Why did I ever like him, you know? But in that film, it was all right because that was kind of the point. I feel like with Before Sunrise, that wouldn't be the point. I don't want to think of Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy as dickheads. I don't want to think of them as bad people or unlikable characters. I want to remember them the way that I remember them, as the foundation of some of the greatest dialogue that has ever come out of cinema, bar none. And yeah, I give Richard Linklater, Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy my massive thanks for inspiring me so much. They've basically inspired everything that I've done since with that film in terms of how I try and approach naturalistic dialogue. Certainly they've inspired the Johnny Mozzer Lessons in Confidence film, and they will continue to inspire things after that. I still want to make that Nukes We Brought film, and I've actually updated the idea to be about sort of chronicling, kind of like Boyhood, but for the Richard Linklater film where it's filmed over 12 years and about, you know, someone growing up. I like the idea of that, but with two people, a couple that start off quite young and then they get to maybe their mid-30s, and over that course of time, it's done through the lens of geopolitical, basically the Nazis come back in Germany is my idea, and they invade England. And the idea is that they start, like, this couple meet in a really happy time in the world, and the general world circumstances get worse and worse and worse until it's the point where they need to leave London and actually just drive up to Scotland to escape the Nazis, and then full-on nuclear war breaks out at the very, very end. So it kind of works in that kind of way. Maybe I'll do it chronologically in a Boyhood sort of way. Maybe I'll do it non-chronologically with a couple different actors playing the characters at different times, and maybe expand the time frame so it goes from 20s to them in their 70s, something like that. I don't know how I'll approach it, but I know it's a film I do want to make probably after the Johnny Mozzer Lessons in Confidence. I'll probably take some time off, actually, like in between Johnny Mozzer's Lessons in Confidence and starting up that film. Knowing me, I actually won't do that. But, you know, I wanted to make this video just about how brilliant Before Sunrise is. It's one of my favorite ever films, and I really recommend you watch it. Yeah, check it out. Also check out its sequels, Before Sunset and Before Midnight. Before Midnight is a film I actually struggled to watch, but in a very different way, almost in the opposite way, where it feels like the film itself is trying to ruin the characters for me in the same way that I can't watch Before Sunrise again. It feels like Richard Linklater almost agrees with me and made Before Midnight as a response to that. Not a response to me, but a response to his prior film. But it is a beautiful fucking film, and like, in a way it's the best of the trilogy, but in a way it's also not. And I feel like you can't give a best or the worst. My favorite remains Before Sunset. It's got a nice balance of like the really nice, soppy, happy, like holistic world kind of making you feel at home kind of thing of Before Sunrise, but a little bit less strawberry lace and a little bit more tiramisu. So yeah, thank you very much for watching this video. Please check out Before Sunrise, and yeah, I love making films. I love just seeing them. Well, I need to watch more of them, to be honest. Yeah, thank you very much for watching this video. Have a good rest of the day. Take care. Love you all. Yeah. I thought I'd do a video about something really happy in a really miserable looking place, but that's winter for you. Also, sorry about the wind noises. I can't really do anything about that. God, can you stop it for a bit? Pack it in. Bloody can't say that about God. You can't say bloody because that's a swear. Don't say that. Yeah. Oh, now I've got to get up. Oh, God. Okay, hang on. How am I going to do this? Oh, there's a branch there. Oh. Ooh.